We're back! Hello, my name is Leonie, and this is the HermitBurpcast, a monthly podcast to get myself talking more about arting and life. Today's date is the 24th of April, 2015. Episode 4, Sink or Swim, Teaching at the Front Lines. This is part of the Storytime series When Art Was a Hobby and Teaching Was a Career. Part 2 of 4. So, it's housekeeping time. So there's 3 things. First thing, reminder that show notes exist and they're much more informative now. I've got hyperlinks, I've got dot points, I've got questions, I've got summaries, and it's not too detailed, but you get the gist. It's a really simplified outline. And in case you don't keep up with my blog posts, every 2 weeks I will alternate between a burp art blog post and a burpcast. In terms of this burpcast, it will be every 4 weeks. So there you go. Second thing, if you are watching this on YouTube, I'll have a sped up version, several 100% times faster. I don't know for sure at this moment in time as I record. And it will be of me doing figure drawing studies. And it will be playing right now as you're listening to this whole podcast. And just watch it if you're interested. Yeah, I got video now again. Apologies that I had to cover up the bottom left corner because there were some video recording issues, and this is my first time, yada yada yada. I realized afterwards too late that I actually had an old version of the software I was using, but then I can't actually get rid of it from the video, so you have this preview image in the box covering that up. So oopsies, you don't have to watch it. Oh, sorry, you don't have to watch this video as it's just a drawing. It's just me drawing, sorry. And this is just so that the YouTube version of this podcast isn't so boring. And I stressing that the main show is the audio anyway. And the third thing, there are some burpcast topics I'm thinking about, like movies. I don't know if I'm going to incorporate movies because I have that usual, I'm going to talk about games segment. But I don't know if I should add a movie segment when I can't afford to watch that. Yeah. I still need to watch Big Hero 6. Oh, I need to. Okay, and other topics I need to watch. What am I saying? Other topics I'm thinking of doing is tendon elbow because I've been struggling with that. Things like ergonomics. Another topic would be social media and introverts. Yay, introverts. Also socializing and friendships because I'm terrible at those. Another topic would be why I'm an artist. Another one would be art process. My art process, whatever that is right at the moment. And these are just from the top of my head, my topics on the drawing board for future burpcast topics. So if you got any questions towards these topics or you have new suggestions for new topics, then please send them my way through email. I will deeply appreciate it, and if they're really good, I'll credit you. Okay, that's all my housekeeping points. And now, I talk about the month that has gone by. Well, how is my month, Leonie? Well, aside from drawing, learning, blogging, and the projects I'm doing, first thing, as you can tell, I have energy now. I am not sick anymore. And it is really cold though, right now, in Melbourne, but just wear a lot of clothes, I guess. And at the moment, I'm testing a new keyboard because I have been struggling with typing strain with my non-dominant hand. So I've been training myself to position myself properly in terms of my arm. Now my arm/finger strain is not as bad anymore, but now my shoulders and back are killing me right now. because I'm bad to my bad posture habits. Ouch. So I'm forcing myself to take regular breaks, and I am stretching it out. I'm trying to get myself stretching again. Because I don't do that, I've been lazy, and I really, really need to take care of myself more. So if you have not been taking care of yourself, I suggest you do that. Go take care of yourself. Not like me, I'm terrible. Second thing, in terms of my month, sleeping patterns. I consider myself a natural night owl, though when I was young, I've been raised as an early bird, so I don't know what I am. But I've been a night owl for most of my life. But currently I am getting my sleeping patterns worked on, slowly. And now I get up around 5:30 a.m. to around 7 a.m.-ish, or 7:30, that kind of thing. It kind of fluctuates between this time period. I say slowly, but I'm really going it cold turkey, actually. Which is why I'm fluctuating in terms of when I wake up. Yes, I get really, really groggy, but I feel great waking up early and being strict with myself when I go to sleep. I don't allow myself to go to sleep really, really late in the morning. That is terrible. I mean, I started becoming a night owl first when I started high school, and that's when I started working really hard, thinking that, I need to work longer and harder at school, so I had to stay up late and do all-nighters, and as a result, I was always tired and sleepy. And I also had to become a night owl back then because everyone else were early birds, and staying up was my way of getting some quiet time to myself. And now that I'm waking up early with a bunch of other early birds, I'm starting to feel and remember how great it is to feel ready and fresh towards a new day. Yeah. I know the bed is warm and cozy, but I want to make each day count and not at the expense of sleep deprivation if I could help it. Oh, I know that too well. Sleep deprivation. Oh, great. I used to have long stages of sleep deprivation. Wow. Of sleep deprivation as the default, and it wasn't great, especially when I fall asleep when I'm not physically and actively doing something. It's embarrassing. Maybe you've seen me fall asleep. I don't know, maybe. As much as I try to focus on sitting there and listening, especially if it's a lecture where you're passively just sitting there, I struggle. Concentration just goes out the window because I'm so sleep deprived. Now it doesn't happen too much at all, though I still need to keep going with this early bird thing until it's a permanent habit, so let's hope it goes well for me. If you're trying this out and you're a night owl, let me know and tell me how it goes. Like, when do you wake up? When do you go to sleep? Those kinds of questions. Okay, third thing. Speaking of personal stuff, yes, I've been struggling with direction right now, but I am in the slow process of learning and trying things out. This is life. The fourth thing. This is going to be a longer topic. Topic. What is a topic? Topic. What is this? Anyway, what am I doing? So number 4. I did the Myers-Briggs personality test again. Emphasize the word again. I'll explain later. But I did it earlier this month, and then, if you don't know, for those who don't know, it's a test where it categorizes all the people in the world, the billions of people in the world, into 16 personality pigeonholes. So yes, I know I discussed this with some people, and I got reminded, you can't take these tests seriously, Leonie. You know that, don't you? And I know it's just a way to self-analyze yourself. It's a very, very loose guide. It's free to do. You can Google it if you're interested in having a go at it. I was doing it because I want to see if my result changed from the last time I did it. And it turns out I still got the same result I had from 8 to 9 years ago. I remember what I had 8 to 9 years ago. Yes, I do. And apparently I am still the heavy thinker. Surprise, surprise. I won't say exactly what I got as a result, because I don't find that too important, because it tends to pigeonhole you as well, so you don't have to share what you got. I don't need to know details. It's for your own information anyway, self-analysis and all that. But one thing one thing that stood out to me the most was that on the introvert to extrovert spectrum, it tells me that I am 100%. I am at the extreme end of the spectrum. I am way over there at the extreme end. So, whoa. So the first thing that comes to mind is that, oh no, I'm doomed. All that negativity with being too extreme, especially at something like this, an introvert. Oh no. I guess I am the extreme introvert. Dun, dun, dun. I mean, like, actually thinking about it for a while, I find this really funny. I was surprised at first, but then I'm not, as I remember now that it's not the first time I got something like this, and it was a different test. It wasn't the Myers-Briggs test, but I don't remember what it's called, so don't ask me about that. But it's really interesting. Oh, I'm the extreme introvert, ooh! And then, wait, you may say, Leonie, does this mean you hate people, right? No. If I did hate people, why am I doing this? Why am I subjecting myself to this horrible, embarrassing talk show? There's nothing bad about leaning towards introversion anyway. I'm stressing that out. And introvert and what am I saying? Extroverted and introverted people are equally as cool. So I am not bashing either. I've talked about a lot about introversion, and I talked about it in episode 1. I talked about it in a lot of my blog posts, and even at my About page. But I'll quickly, maybe not quickly, I'll go over it for those who are new and who don't know. Just, hey, this is my opinion again, if you want to listen, can't you? So, if you are an introvert to a degree, or have a social stimulation quota, at least for me, once that runs out, my mental energy is depleted. Oh, am I a robot? Depleted. And I zone out with some quiet time until I'm rested, recovered, so that it refills the batteries. Yeah, in a way it's like batteries. Spending time focusing and socializing with others drains my energy or battery or quota. I call it many things. While spending some alone time helps me to recover it. So personally, I have this deadpan tired face on when I zone out. I just look into the distance and look really unfocused, like I'm off to dreamland. Currently recharging. So yes, I do have my reserved and private nature. That is me, because I conserve this energy. It's precious. Most of my day is made up of alone time. But this is nothing personal. This is how I am. And then I end up I end up really extremely protective of my energy, as I want to spend this quota wisely and selectively only on a small handful of people, and ideally one person at a time. Ha 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 ha. And lastly, I actually do get energized when I'm involved in a deep, meaningful conversation. Anywho, let's not be bogged down by labels like that. Labels. Let's not pigeonhole ourselves. But it helps in terms of, hey, this is where I am right now, and this is what I can keep improving on, or work with, or take advantage of, or you know what I mean. This is, in a way, kind of helpful to know how you are at the present, I guess. Maybe just a loose guide. But moving on. I shall be a hermit by default, but when I can afford to, I hope to keep pushing my stamina in social situations. I also hope to talk more about introvert kind of topics, seeing that I am apparently the extreme 100% introvert. Yeah, I'm joking. But yes, that's my general overview of introversion and this Myers-Briggs test. So, let me know how you do if you do try the test. Most people are around the middle anyway on the introversion extroversion spectrum. I think they're called ambiverts. It sounds cool. Ambiverts. Yeah. And the last one, number 6. How am I feeling with doing the burpcast? Wow. Burpcast so far. Well. It's episode 4. Month 4 now. And a friend asked me this question, and I'm giving it more thought now. Right now I am growing to enjoy it more and more because, in a way, I'm doing a one-to-one deep, meaningful conversation right now, and in a way that's how I get energized. I won't forget that the whole point of this is to talk more, and I think this initial goal is working as long as I keep doing this. I can't say how long I'll do this as it is time consuming, but I'll keep going for as long as I'm happy doing it. Let's enjoy this as it lasts, yeah. In terms of positive things about this broadcast, ignoring the fact that it's time consuming, with this broadcast, I just do my own thing and I don't worry about getting interrupted. Now, side note about interruptions, yes, interruptions are a normal thing in conversations. It's just that for me, I lose my train of thought sometimes whenever I get interrupted, or I won't bother continuing what I want to say because there are times when you sense it, that other people are more interested in what they want to say, so they're more interested in their head what they want to say next, and then when they interrupt me, I figure, I'm not gonna bother continuing what I'm saying anymore. I'll just focus on listening what they got to say. Like, I'll just save my breath. And when we all get that, that's normal, that's cool. It's just really rare and terribly it's when someone actually calls you up and asks you, hey, continue what you wanted to say before. Continue. They show that they are actually interested in hearing more about what you want to say, and they actually want you to finish. And then when I tell them, I forgot what I wanted to say, because, the train has left the station and it's gone. It's doubly great when they even remind you what you were saying, and then it shows that they were listening. It kind of gives extra power to that meaningful conversation. I'm saying this with a fist in my hand right now. This is like a fist. Yeah. Anyway, all I'm saying here is that this is my little talk show where I don't need to worry about getting interrupted, I guess. And I can keep riding on my train of thought into express mode, and I can just ramble on ahead, which is right now. I call it my choo-choo train of thought. Yeah, sounds more cooler with the choo-choo train of thought. And the second thing this webcast has brought to me is the 12 Days of Christmas. I get to be silly and I get to talk about what I'm interested. It's kind of a mix of video games and personal story types and topics on art and creativity. Yeah. And the third thing, to be blunt, this webcast is still the same in terms of approach, which is a good thing, I guess. I was thinking, I was kind of worried that it's going to change a lot because switch things around. But in terms of approach, as I said in the first 2 episodes, this is, as I said, a mix of personal, subjective, and casual conversational talk and discussion. This is not a podcast for professional and formal wisdom to be shared. There are plenty of professional, incredible podcasting wisdom of art and creativity out there. Go seek for those instead if you are interested in those. So, look elsewhere if you're looking for something really serious and educational or completely crazy and entertaining. I don't know if I'm entertaining, and I don't know if I'm educational, so what am I? I don't know yet. This is too early. This is episode 4. Just a baby podcast. But I am really, really open for questions and discussion. I'm still learning. I am a newbie at all this still. And then you might ask, wait, when will you not be a newbie? And I will answer, maybe 2016 if I last that long. See you in 2016. Yeah, let's see how I go at that point, and then we'll reflect on how I went. Yeah, let's go with that. Anyway, number 4. In terms of this broadcast, I see this as me talking to you. Like we're catching up with each other. Really, in a way, yeah. We're just catching up with each other. And because I know talking about myself is one of my weaknesses. I am terrible in person because I'd rather listen to other people's stories than my own. I find other people's stories more interesting than my own because my own stories are already in my head. I don't need to talk about it and think about it again. And also, as well, I take ages to warm up to people. That's also another thing. The fifth thing about this webcast, I find myself having fun rambling, and I hope that you're having fun listening along as well. And lastly, number 6, with this webcast, I do question myself sometimes. Who listens to this? Well, I guess it's for people who want to get to know me, how I think, and what I do as I undertake this long learning journey of mine, and hopefully it encourages people to keep the fun, progress, and grit in whatever they do, and stay true to themselves. That's my goal, aside from talking more, because I think I am talking more right now. And I need to set the next goal, I guess. Also, to be honest, this is probably how you're going to get to know me, because I am so invisible and quiet otherwise in person. I am a ninja. So if I were to summarize all those 6 points, yeah, I'm feeling great during this burpcast. Hello, and thank you, fellow creative people out there. I am waving to you. I am waving my hand right now. Physically, right now, yes. Hello! Thank you. I hope this keeps going. I hope this keeps being positive. This is where I talk about games. Leonie talks about games. Games. So, the first game I would like to talk about is Kirby Triple Deluxe. It's on the 3DS. And I finished the game in the past month, and it's fun. The gameplay is nothing too new, but there's this background and foreground platforming to worry about. It keeps it interesting. It's not as straightforward as the usual Kirby formula, but DDD is so sad and helpless because he gets kidnapped. It's so cute. And that Death Stare glare. The Death Stare ending. Wow. You know what I'm talking about if you play to the end. And I also did the DDD tour thing. It was pretty cool because it's harder and it's a bit annoying, but then you get to do the extra stages without earning the extra stages, because I didn't bother getting the extra stages for each world. But the DDD tour actually goes through all the extra stages instead, so you don't actually have to earn those extra stages. Ha ha! I got away from that. So Kirby Triple Deluxe, it was pretty cool, and I had fun. It's a Kirby game. It's Kirby. There's nothing new to expect. It's cool. It's cute. The second game is Xenoblade Chronicles. Now I know that the 3DS version has been out in the past month or so, and quality won't be as good as the Wii version in terms of graphics, but it's an RPG and works well as a portable game. Because RPGs, the usual RPGs are really, really long. This is the last time I'm going to ramble on about this game for a long time, so bear with me. I'm going to talk about this game. I confess that I didn't care about it when I first saw Shulk, the blonde main character in the Smash 4 trailer. I'll link it in the show notes so you know what I'm talking about for those who don't know what this game is about. And I only recently watched this Smash 4 trailer properly and fully appreciated all the references from the game. And, this is so good! Okay, I dismissed this gem of a game because I thought it was just another RPG game with a predictable story. And I'm not a RPG person only because I don't have the time. If I had the time in the world, I would be so into RPGs. But I don't. Would you count Pokemon as RPG in a way? I kinda maybe, but then I played that when I was a kid, and then that didn't go well. But that's another story. And Xenoblade is one of those RPGs where you can spend up to and over 70 hours of time to finish the whole game. So, I don't have the time to play that. Now, why am I, raving about all this game? Well, I only started watching the gameplay because I was curious. The stage for it in Smash Bros. 4 was mysterious, and the music was beautiful, majestic, and epic. And I didn't spoil myself because I didn't care that much for the game at the time. People seem to have a love of the game as they threw in all these catchphrases from the game, and it feels like, this sounds cool, but I don't know, I'm skeptical here. So when someone I regularly watch was playing through the game blind, I was crazy enough to watch the whole game through. So as I was watching along, at first I thought, this is some good background noise as I work. And I was reluctant, I was skeptical, I was thinking, this story is slow. But then RPGs, they take their time to build their story anyway, so that's normal. And I was finding that it's been a predictable start so far. And then there was, you notice there's a twist, and okay, there's a twist, okay. And then things keep getting serious, and then as I keep going further, I felt, whoa, I was wrong. What is happening here? What is going on with this story? Oh my gosh. It wasn't a simple human versus machine kind of story. It's not. And I find myself falling deep in love into the game. The story, the world, gameplay, and especially when your team members are talking to each other and banter and all that as you fight together, I found that really neat. In terms of gameplay, my bro says it's Monster Hunter with a wonderful story. And in terms of this whole game, I'm always left wanting more. It's definitely one of those games that you'd only appreciate and feel, like, you feel magical and special somehow when you experience this game. Just everything in this game. The plot, the mechanics, the music. It's, so good. And I'm just watching this game. I'm not even actually playing it. I still melted and I still fell in love with this game and cared about all the characters in the team. And I felt this is this rare special feeling. It's special at least to me because it's been a long while since I liked a game so much. Oh man, and I'm saying, as I think about it, wow, it's like I'm talking about falling in love, except this is a game. I'm falling in love with a game. It's like, I look around and, I actually like this game a lot now. In terms of the ending, I find it mind-boggling and incredible. I was stunned. If you're interested in going through the whole thing, please don't spoil yourself. Don't spoil yourself. The impact won't be as huge. Anyway, I'm so happy to my, blah, blah, jeez. I'm so happy that my brother is playing it right now. And now we get to joke around and throw catchphrases around. Yeah. So, this is the last thing I'll say. To you, I will say, please, if you can't play the game itself or be bothered to watch the gameplay, I completely understand. I'm asking of you, at least listen to this Nintendo playlist of some of the incredible epic music of the game. I linked it in the show notes. It is amazing. Please have a listen to it. This is what got me interested in the game. You won't feel the full impact of it since it's so out of context from the game, but the mixture of orchestra and rock, they do work so harmoniously well. Have a listen. Okay, I'm done with the information. Okay. The next game I would like to talk about is Ori and the Blind Forest. Just a quick comment, I guess, since I've watched the whole thing now, and I noted that, it's incredibly hard platforming, Metroidvania-ish, like, apparently, that's what people keep saying. Well, my brother emphasizes that as well. And it has an interesting story, and it's really, really pretty, and they animated everything really well, and believably well. It's a well-executed game. And that's all I got to say about this game. Okay. The third game I'd like to talk about is Life is Strange, Episode 2. The dialogue is still cringe-worthy. I understand it's not made by English-speaking devs, but it's still bugging me a lot. Chloe, the blue-haired girl, I really don't like her as a person still. I really don't want her to be your friend. It's like, go away! You jerk, go away! And they probably don't, but I keep questioning, do people in college really act like this in America? This is a really bad depiction, it feels like. But in terms of teenage drama vibes, maybe it's accurate, I have no idea. This is more like high school than college, but I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe college is like that. Someone please help me understand. I don't understand. In terms of characters in general, I don't like most people here but then again, all of them have flaws and I kind of respect that, I guess. And with Warren, who talks like Warren? He's just staying there and like bugging you, and he clearly likes the main character a lot. He tries too hard to be there, and for example, who says go ape? Who says that? I don't get that. The story overall keeps you watching, but some characters are really constructed in a weird way. And how they talk, and there were gameplay parts that were completely unnecessary. Hint, trains and bottles. Okay, in terms of Chloe, I am really annoyed. I'm so done with this lady. It feels like she's using you as well to get to... While your photography teacher is suspicious. I mean, he's handsome, but he's think you can trust him kind of vibe. And the security guard, like, he looks like a bad guy at the start, but you know that he has good intentions, but he is doing it in a more paranoid kind of approach where he stalks everybody. And Nathan is scary and completely without remorse for some reason. I am having trouble figuring out what he's thinking. But it gets, this whole game, it gets into serious, dark themes, and I've seen the story play on both sides of the ending in terms of a certain character you actually care about. So I'm keen to keep watching this game because it's starting to look like a horror movie in episode 3. I don't know when that will come out, but I'm still keen to keep going, but I don't like some characters here. But I want to see, I'm still interested to know and also yes, there's the illusion of choice, like the Telltale game. Okay, the fourth game, I think this is the fourth game I would like to talk about, is Far Cry 4. I finally finished and saw the gist of the whole game. It's really, really pretty in terms of art. They nailed the atmosphere, especially the dream sequences with the tiger and the bells and flying in the sky. But I really don't know or care much about the rest of the story. So Pagan Min is still the most interesting character. He's crazy, but he's still the most interesting character to me. And the best ending is still when you just stay put at the start of the game and then it ends right from there. It's great. You don't even need to play the whole game to have the best ending. Okay, so I think that's number 4. Number 5. If I start with these numbers, that's okay. It doesn't matter. Number 5, Bloodborne. Oh, Bloodborne. Bloodborne is awesome. It's impressive, actually. It's satisfying when you see someone finally defeat a boss, especially. I watched loads and loads of deaths and ragdoll corpse. Pain and blood and pain and creepy things and death and dark things and tiny wet things and what's going on here. Bloodborne seems really, really cool. Especially the boss fights and the boss character designs, and though everything looks the same in terms of color and things tend to blend in and it lends itself, it just makes things easy to like hide themselves and I guess it's intentional, So when random evil enemy characters come and get you, when you look at a screenshot, sometimes you're not sure what you're looking at because everything's so samey in terms of color. But the hub world, or the world that you go to when you are dreaming, I think that's pretty neat. It has like gravestones and that doll, and yeah, the doll's voice actor was pretty neat. Then there's the wheelchair guy, and then yeah, Bloodborne is pretty cool, but I'm probably going to be terrible at that game. So I'm just content watching what other people are doing. Okay, the next game, number 6, Game of Thrones, episode 3. I was surprised that this came out so fast, right after episode 2. I thought I was going to wait for like several months before episode 3 comes out, but here's episode 3. Wow. I found myself with this episode relaxing only when the whole episode ended. I was so tense and on edge watching. I was like, oh no, what's happening right now? What's next? I know that there's an illusion of choice in this game. Pretty, well scripted and blah, blah, blah. Well, okay, arguably. But it's so good that you don't care that there's the illusion of choice happening. and it cuts between characters mostly really well. If you were to play it, every decision is the worst. It's kind of like, which is the least worst thing to choose, and you still feel bad because you still feel bad because you know that there's tiny tidbits of consequences in terms of how the characters treat you, but then as a whole, it doesn't really change the story that much. And if this intensity is how it is like with the TV series, whoa, I don't know how it is in terms of the TV series, but if you find yourself being on edge and tense all the time when you're watching it, then I don't know if I want to watch it because I'll be thinking about it all the time, kind of thing. I can see that happening, so I don't want to get into something. Especially, I think it's in its 6th season. I'm ignorant in this. But Game of Thrones Episode 3, I'm keen to know. And the last game I'm going to talk about is Mewtwo in Smash 4. I played as him, and please note, I am a newbie. I am a newbie player. Because I understand to be good at anything, you need to be practicing, and I'm not practicing. He's okay. He's not the best, and he's not the worst. Yeah. Or that's what my brother tells me. But I'm happy for those people who wanted him in for so long since Melee, and me personally, I'm just happy that there's DLC for more characters. Oh, I don't know, who are people going to vote? If you're into Smash Brothers, who are you going to vote? Right now, I'm leaning towards Wonder Red from the the wonderful 101 game. And because it needs attention, Wonder Red is cool. And I think that wraps it up for all the games I'd like to talk about this month. Yeah, games. Video games. And now it's story time with Leonie. This is part 2, and the Sink or Swim. Teaching on the front lines. Yeah, that was the title. Here is the continued recording from early March, while I was stressed again that this is the past, and I have no ill will against the people I mentioned in my story, who shall remain anonymous. And another reminder that, hey, if you got any feedback, suggestions, or questions for this particular story, send them my way through email so I can collect them and put them towards the upcoming Q&A episode in June. So send them my way. Questions, feedback, responses, thoughts, all that good stuff through email. Deeply appreciate it. Anyway, without further ado, this is the recording. This is part 2. Enjoy. Last time on the HermitBurpcast on Storytime, part 1 involved me deciding to go for teaching as a career path, and here begins me telling you how I dealt with my first actual teaching job. So if you missed part 1, have a listen to that one. This is part 2. So, I was a fresh new graduate, and I was going to teach. I was the youngest and quietest teacher there, so of course I wasn't taken seriously. And the first advice upon my tour of the school is that it's okay if teaching isn't for you. It was like some sinister foreshadowing going on there in that advice, but I was worried, and then I dismissed it because I have to deal with a job ahead of me, I was thinking. Now, before I actually go into specific moments of this first year of teaching, I would like to talk about some things in general first. So, with my colleagues, I stress that I have no ill will towards anyone at my school. Please keep it anonymous if you know any details, because I will be honest about my personal experiences at the time. My colleagues did the best they could to support me, and they were wonderful at what they do. They are amazing at how they problem solve and deal with problems, and they are incredible people that maybe I'll aspire to be like them someday. I don't know. It was also the way I saw them teach when I sat in during their classes. That was incredibly inspiring. That partly kept me going as long as I did. And a few of my colleagues actually gave me rides along the way to and from work before I managed to get my own car, so I am incredibly grateful for that. And during my time teaching, I wrote comprehensive emails early on because I had to reach out for help to my mentor and colleagues, and they gave me advice the best they could. But later on, I gave up asking because I couldn't figure out a way that worked for me and something that would work that I could execute well, not them, because we have different personalities. And I also came across a lot of differing opinions. I was confused. And this is my feeling after the fact. My colleagues were just too kind to be blunt. They are too kind to tell me that I'm not suited to be a teacher, and they either said nothing to me directly, and they didn't explicitly tell me to stop coming to work altogether. Instead, they gave me their time and best advice for a given situation, or maybe they just kept encouraging me or tell me off that it was possible. Stop being so unconfident in yourself. And there's also that general vibe. Teaching as a first-year teacher is supposed to be tough. And that is truth. It is tough to be a first-year teacher. Some people actually get the hang of teaching in their third or fourth year. It takes that long to get a hang of it, apparently. So I was going along with that rationalization. And although I'm not in contact with any of my old colleagues anymore, they were awesome people. I do get curious as to how they're going today, but I don't want to push that. It's all in the past. Another general comment I would like to make is with students and parents. Many of them do want to learn. They want to get things over with, and they are incredibly understanding. And teenagers in general are smart, but they can be lazy and silly, and if they can get away with it. But many students don't like mathematics, and it was a struggle to go against my personal nature, and because I just hated imposing things onto others. I disliked ordering students around, and both of these played a part in my struggle with teaching. Many of them were good students, and they saw I was trying the best I could to do my job and do it better. Okay, the actual teaching that I want to talk about, I did during my first year. I organised curriculum, I kept records, documentation, I learned new software quickly. There was these e-boards or something, so you don't need whiteboard markers or anything like that anymore. You just use a electronic whiteboard that requires special markers to write on them and all that. I don't see the point. That was one of the ways schools get funding from the government, to show that they're progressive. So much things that are frustrating. There were teaching materials I had to prepare for. I did a lot of photocopying, hence a lot of old recycled photocopied paper I have with me that I use to sketch drawings on now. And I had to take attendance. I had to start and end each class as best I could, because it's really important to start and end well. I had to make and prepare and undertake and correct exams and tests. There's loads of corrections. I had to do loads of detailed records of every professional development training I did, because when you're a teacher, you have to constantly prove that you're a teacher and that you are developing and learning as a teacher. There was so much multitasking and stimulation, and the preview image for this episode was more or less what my staff room office looked like. Just stacks and stacks of paper everywhere. And also the laptop that I rented. And then there's also cranes. I had to fold some cranes at the end. It just gave me hope somehow. Just like amidst all that paperwork, just to have some cranes sitting there on my desk, it just felt like, hey, stay positive. I don't know. And I did a lot of learning plans and wrote a lot of reports for each one of my, 120-ish students. I've been waking up from 5:30 a.m, going to work really early, and then I go to bed at 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. in the morning for most of the time, and this is a big reason why I burned out so fast. One other big reason. As a teacher, I also figured out seating plans. I'm constantly trying to figure out classroom management, kept email communication lines going with my colleagues and parents if the need arises, with year-level meetings and briefings and all that stuff. And dealing with students, I had to keep following up with the same disruptive students for their behavior or chasing up for homework and detentions, and then had to follow up with coordinator meetings and then get parents involved as it escalates. Essentially eats up our lunch times and after schools, basically. But in some cases, detentions can be useful because there are some students who actually use this time to catch up with homework, as in I actually get them to do homework at last. And other times there are students who are hostile and they don't come in at all. And I am left waiting for them and recording it down, and I have to bring it up to the coordinator. Series of consequences that you have to felt pointless in the end when you know that you're trying to force things upon your students. That's my opinion. It was an enormous struggle. As we think about it, teenagers are just figuring themselves out, and if you force them to do something, their resistance gets higher and they thrive on testing out boundaries just to see what they could get away with, and you need to be game enough to execute the consequence. It was an enormous struggle for me. And as much as I tried, I just couldn't handle 30 or so different teenage individuals at once, with 4 to 6 classes in one day, ranging from 11 years old to 18 years old. I was always overstimulated and exhausted. I find it incredible when I see teachers do this well. In hindsight, I just couldn't do it. As an introverted person, my energy drains so quickly as the day goes on. In hindsight, again, I'm not right for this job because I didn't have boundless energy to spare. I was not enthused. I was not good at being bossy, being authoritative, the do it my way leader. I am not able to guide 30 students all at once in the room. I was not able to selflessly care for all my students, to handle a class of 30 different individuals of different educational needs, wants, and attitudes. But I did work my butt off trying. I did the best I could in my first year. I worked. All this was against the very way I worked. I needed low-key surroundings to thrive, while here I am constantly walking on my feet, looking at how students were going, hoping my lesson plans work out, to not let it become a glorified babysitting situation by default, and at least keep the students engaged and learning. That is why I am completely amazed by how, given that I have actually tried teaching myself until my high school, I can't speak for any other. And then when I wanted to actually make mathematics interesting, obviously there was a big resistance to that, because mathematics in schools, the way it's taught at schools, is incredibly boring, and to make it interesting was already a hard thing to do in itself. But I tried new group things and creative mathematical problem-solving activities. I was hoping that students might be more manageable because of these more interesting things that I'm trying out. I was hoping they will be more enthused about it. And I didn't really want to teach my textbooks all the time, just so that I can assess and do my report writing more easily. I wanted to actually, challenge students, get them to struggle a bit and learn and problem solve and all that good stuff with maths. I just couldn't handle students who wanted to push my trust and waste my time. As it happens with group work, things kept falling apart. They were lazy. They didn't want to get challenged. They just want a free ride to pass the time and get the class over with so they can get out of the school. That was what I was fighting with, that attitude, and it frustrates me. And even when I tried to do a lunchtime weekly drawing club later down the year, I don't know, it was term 3, and all the teachers were, who is doing this? Who started this drawing club? What is this? I had to slowly put my hand up in embarrassment. It was me. And then they were looking at me in surprise or confusion, I don't know, but I actually tried doing a weekly drawing club for students, and it didn't go well. It didn't go well, but I looked forward to it. I actually prepared something for it as well. But it fell upon deaf ears. And then that drawing club turned into detention lunchtime instead. It was incredibly... Despite my efforts to make mathematics interesting, I realized I don't even have my managing teenager skills down enough to handle more exciting activities, so it just felt easier. The path of least resistance, to just stick with boring worksheets, textbook exercises, testing criteria sheets, emphasizing on proving and showing your working out as directed and following the rules. And I felt I needed to sort out my classroom management skills before I tried further riskier things, or that was the thought at the time. Oh, I got so much I can say on this topic, but I'll talk more about my teaching and learning philosophy next. Back to the point on teaching, on my first year of teaching. It was a long downward spiral when I burnt myself out, staying overtime as you do. I mean, all this stuff I'm saying, it's kind of universal in any line of work. I'm not saying this. I'm a special snowflake at all. No, I'm not. But as a teacher here, I was trying loads of different teaching approaches and plans, scrapping them, trying new ones, scrapping them more, and trying new ones, doing detentions, making homework, planning routines, color-coded spreadsheets, doing corrections again, and documenting everything I did, supervising any excursional trips, doing yard duty, putting up announcements every morning, students to go to detention, parent/student correspondence, keeping parents in the know about these things, timetabling meetings. I was always on my feet, and I tried, following the footsteps of what known amazing teachers do. I was trying my best. I'm not gonna halfly do things. No, I spent so much time on this. I must go with it all the way. And I guess this is why I believe, you may disagree, why teachers need those holidays. Because teaching is incredibly intense, especially for those who actually care in what they do. Personally, I was always tired, and I fell asleep whenever I'm not actively doing so. I embarrassed myself in front of my colleagues several times, and I kept silent in order to preserve energy for my classes instead, because I was deeply affected by sleep deprivation. I didn't sleep that much. It was terrible. And when school holidays came about, I used them to redo my classroom management plan again and again, and teaching and try to figure out new ways to teach for the millionth time. I felt as each holiday came around the corner, I increasingly felt that all this effort was pointless. But then again, I still didn't have any form of rest or a break because my fear of failure and the need for preparation was always at the back of my mind. I didn't want to waste time, in quotations, rest. In short, I was drowning with my head barely above the surface. That was the feeling throughout my whole first year of teaching. I felt like I was drowning slowly, painfully, and now I actually go into the more, I guess this is where I'm going to talk about the series of unfortunate moments I had during my time as a teacher. Number one, there were a few students that kept refusing to learn, and they thrived to cause chaos. No matter how much I tried to implement consequences and detentions and telling their parents or whatever, I just couldn't manage the class when the same students kept disrupting with loudness, rudeness, physical object throwing, being a jerk to other students, some students refusing to do any work, throwing a tantrum on the floor. The list and my documentation goes on. A lot of it I don't really remember the details of because I'd rather not remember them. And number two, sure, I was bullied verbally and physically as a student, as a high school student, as a primary school student. A lot of us have. But I was bullied physically and verbally as a short, female, quiet-spoken teacher by my own students. That was also tough. It's not just towards me either, mind you, but other seasoned teachers dealt things more efficiently and better. I just strive to handle things as well as they did, but I don't know how effective I was. At times, I needed extra support and help from my colleagues. To give you an idea, I had things thrown at me during the time when I was teaching, when my back was turned, when I was writing things on the board. So when I turned around, I was never sure who actually did it. It was a blame game, and I didn't want to be part of it. And there was another time where I was repeatedly hit with a football, in spite of my words, by a student. Now, that preview image with the grassy plains you saw last episode, that is where it happened, I think. It was outside near an oval where I was repeatedly hit with a football intentionally, and that student kept doing it until I walked off. It's something I won't forget, but I did bring it up to the coordinator's attention and filed an incident report and everything. Other things that happened to me, I had obscenities, words of hate screamed at me, and insults. I had all that happen to me, and I had some of my stationery stolen with no way of knowing for sure who did it. I in a way, I wasn't substantially older than them either, which didn't help me with remarks about how I dressed or how short I was than them. How shorter than them I was. And when male students tried to be on the nose with flirting with me. And in those moments, I brush them off, and laugh at their words because I know they're just trying to get on my good side. They're not really serious. It's just that there's also that sense of keeping a respectful distance from your students. Not that I thought of doing anything inappropriate crossed my mind at all, but it is the fear of being accused of doing so was hovering in the air. When you're left alone with a student in the room, that is risky. Sometimes you need to leave the classroom door open to ensure that, to protect yourself. It's weird being a teacher. Okay, in that light, it's terribly hard to sustain connection with students, a battle of earning trust and respect. Yet, you're also expected to be a person of authority over your students, but then your students also need to learn from you, like a person of equal intelligence. It's conflicting. Anyway. With all these incidents that I just mentioned, where possible, they were dealt with, as I mentioned, and they were done with well, because I got support, but there was always that guilt. That guilt that I could have dealt incidents better on my own without escalating the point of getting external help. And then there's students and their parents telling me I'm a bad teacher. Because there were a few of them who were happy to blame me for their lack of effort and their poor grades, and they blamed it all on my ability to manage a classroom of teenagers. But then again, their grades and my ability to manage a classroom of teenagers are entirely different things. But yes, my classroom management skills was the biggest obstacle I had and definitely played a large part in my classes. I did have a class where I had no disruptions because it was a Year 11 specialist mathematics class and students wanted to and chose to be there. Anyway, back to the point. I was also told that I would be better suited as a tutor. And that in itself didn't work out as a business when I did it later, as you will see in the next episode. And there was that time when I was accused of being racist by an international student just because I didn't give the mark they wanted. And they decided to misunderstand everything I did while I had insisted on showing working out from the onset in order to gain full marks. So feelings were definitely hurt on my side, and I was grateful that I was able to talk about it with a colleague and let it all out. Okay, I've rambled this long about the difficulties I had and with teaching and everything, what I did, my relationships with my students and my colleagues and parents and so on. I was struggling, so here I'm going to talk about a memorable moment of my life. It was late term 2 and I had to do a principal and mentor meeting about how I'm going. They arranged a sudden meeting with me to see how I was going, and I was and I could tell that I was supposed to have a good handle at teaching by now at this point. I sensed already that I wasn't doing a good job at managing, and here they're going to tackle the issue in the face. As we talked and pinpointed the challenges I face as a first-year teacher, the principal at one point asked me what I wanted to do. I answered with hesitation, but immediately recalled my high school career pathways quiz result, and then I blurted, I wanted to be an artist, while I was crying. Why didn't you do that then? The principal answered in an exasperated tone. I can't, I said in a defeat and in between my tears. At this point, my mentor tried assuring me that at least I knew my content really well, my mathematics and all that, but that wasn't really the point of the meeting. No, that was not. Finally, I calmed down, and I dried my tears enough to leave, and I found two teachers whom I had asked for help before hovering outside the door, waiting for me to leave so that they could continue their discussion in my absence. Sensing that my presence was unwanted, I wandered off like a lost soul. I left towards the car park under the dark outcast evening and cried some more in my car. I just kept wondering, why wasn't I told to stop working altogether then and there? But it turns out that they may have struggled in finding a replacement. For the rest of that year of my contract, they tried supporting me in other ways. And I didn't have that kind of meeting since... I guess I didn't really have that meeting again. I didn't have an official how you going meeting anymore. I did have meetings with my mentor, but then that also waned. Okay, so that memorable time of my life gone. As that year went on, my well-being was waning and my apathy kept rising. The sense that I had failed and I was incompetent was increasingly solid in my mind. It didn't compare at all to my struggle during my time when I did hospitality, because here I actually cared in what I was doing as a teacher. In terms of my family, my father was fine. He was taking half of whatever I earned anyway, so he gets money. He doesn't really care what I'm doing as a job. And also I had no time to actually enjoy much of anything I've earned from my job, so in that sense I felt trapped. I felt like I'm doomed to be just a money-making machine, I guess. Next thing, self-delusion. The advice of faking it till you make it is not necessarily true with everything. You can't fake it till you make it when your heart is not in it and you're finding that you're not really good at what you do as a profession. It doesn't work. And here I kept going at this for so long because I believed work and employment is supposed to be this hard and miserable. It's supposed to be difficult. That I would get better someday if I worked hard enough. Well, let me tell you, Leonie of the past, it doesn't get better. Essentially, I was just so unhappy. I felt useless and I couldn't truly open up to anyone anymore at this point, as I knew what they'll say to me. I felt that I couldn't trust people anymore since that meeting because it will give more reason for them to talk without my knowing, and it reinforces how weak and incompetent I was. In a way, I was in denial. I didn't want to believe I had to quit. I felt there was nothing else for me to possibly do. I was able to open up and with a few colleagues sometimes, but they were spontaneous moments, and I felt that sometimes my colleagues understood what I was going through. Still, I was feeling worthless, trapped. I felt like I was unable to serve my students well. There were many times where I cried myself to sleep, feeling horrible, incompetent, a worthless human being, and I felt trapped, and I kept reliving all the moments and incidents I felt I could have done better, thinking over how I could change myself to do my job better, and then that was how I fell asleep. I was burnt out very, very early in the year. I somehow kept trudging on like a zombie, though, on a daily basis, every day, and each day just felt like an eternity. Sometimes I tried something new, other times I just wanted the day to be over and sleep it all away. I was an empty shell. To be continued in part 3. Q&A, 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 Q&A. This is where I pick out thoughtful and good questions, and if I don't get any, that's okay as well. I got one, so here goes. This one is from Mark Ponchek again. Because he's really into horror games, and I asked a question about horror games, so he can't help himself here. And I'll just quickly summarize what he said, rather than word for word. So he answered in terms, because, last episode, I need to backtrack. Whoa, rewind. Last episode, I asked about horror games, how they are nowadays, and this is the response I got from him, since he's really, really into horror games. He says that the 80s and 90s were big on horror, and then it got lost, the public got lost interest. Silent Hill and Resident Evil were great in their own way, in terms of atmosphere and all great story. And after the PS2 generation, gaming has changed. After the PS2 generation, gaming has changed because there's no more gamers now, and game production budgets inflated for more complexity and larger markets. It's basically become like making movies with AAA games. Team Silent broke up right around the PS3 launch, and he goes on to say that Resident Evil became more action-orientated to target larger audience from Resident Evil 4 onwards, and it's the same kind of pattern for a lot of other gaming genres at the time. And Mark is saying Demon's Souls is probably the only game to try something new and achieve success. And then Mark's suggestion is that virtual reality, or VR, would revive horror in a big way, and a lot of people are understandably afraid to play horror genre games, he says, and he wouldn't recommend horror for a lot of people. For him personally, he grew up with it as a kid, which was terrifying, but he developed a tolerance, and then it became fun for him. But a lot of people didn't grow up with horror, so he understands it can be a little too much for some people. And then he goes on to ask about my thoughts on his answer. Well, hello, Mark. I'll take your word for it, as I didn't grow up with horror games. I avoided them like the plague because I don't want nightmares. Ironically, I am fascinated in watching other people play horror games nowadays. That is weird. VR definitely does make it another level of real. Told you this before, but for those who are listening, I was playing this zombie shooting survival game, the Oculus Rift, and you're just standing there as they come into the alley. I found myself backing off to avoid getting grabbed by zombies as they reached out to me, and I shot them with this, gun-like controller as well. So it adds to another level of real. Because I don't use guns. It's like, whoa, this is like a real gun. But then I remembered, I've played with gun control before, where you shoot with a fake gun. But that's another story. It sent shivers down my spine when I felt nothing touching me, but visually I see these 3D zombies all over me and around me and grabbing me and trying to eat me up, and it's like, oh, scary. My heart was racing, and I could still see, because I'm short-sighted, but with the Oculus Rift on, I've got these, two screens on my eyeballs, and it's like, ugh, right in your face, and you can't escape it. I was like, get off. And I actually gamed over, and I wanted to play again. I was allowed to play again. I was like, yeah, I want to do this better. I want a higher score. So what am I doing to myself? It was still really tense. I don't know why I did it again, but I don't know if I did better or not. I didn't even keep track of my score at all. Afterwards, my head felt really heavy from having the Oculus Rift on my head, and I had to readjust to real life again, because, whoa, what is this? Where's my glasses? Oh no. And I did feel like I was in a different world. So yes, I do agree that as long as VR keeps improving, it will increasingly become another level of real, and people keep referencing Skynet and all that, but I don't know if that will happen in our lifetime, but let's just wait and see. Okay, let's go back to horror games. My thoughts on horror games. Good horror games are really rare, especially those that step out of the usual formula of predictable survive and kill zombies, blood and gore in your face, and then jump scares. Like, by themselves, that formula by itself isn't scary at all. And in the end, the good ones that are actually unpredictable, like if they add it with, like, if they have things like noting story or disturbing undertones and implied meaningful messages as you play the game, and when you actually do things in the game, it seems to matter. These kinds of games are really rare to come by. So, in terms of VR and horror games, there's lots of room for people to think outside the box. It's exciting, but a challenge to find something unique and well executed. We're slowly getting there, I hope. And personally, no. I am not brave enough to play horror games. Watching jump scares happen to others, I'm fine with for some reason, because I don't get nightmares from that, but I haven't built up a tolerance for jump scares upon myself. Then again, I'm the type who freezes up and screams like a quiet little mouse. And no horror game playing for me. No. So yes, it's not for everyone. So horror games, not for me. But watching other people suffer through it, okay, I'm cool with that. So thanks, Mark, for sending in your thoughts on horror games. Moving on, in terms of other feedback I got, I shall summarize. One kind of feedback I got was that the last episode 3, that the teaching experience, was relatable to my teacher friend. The awkward experience in being a newbie high school teacher, it's relatable. And another friend mentioned that episode 3 relates to those who have been discouraged and diverted from pursuing their dreams from the onset. So thanks to you both. I'm glad it's been relatable to you. And also, the second kind of feedback I got is that there's a few people telling me, hey, Leonie, I haven't really been listening to your podcast at all, but maybe I'll get around to it and I'll support you. And it feels nice, even though they might not actually listen. I don't know if they are. If you are, hello, you. And either way, that the fact that they even acknowledge that my podcast exists, it makes me warm and fuzzy anyway. All the same, even the few likes I got, and yes, in the world of the internet, having one extra YouTube subscriber relatively means nothing, but I am really just grateful. Numbers aren't as important as these interactions of support themselves, because, as you know, I'm an isolated hermit over here. So much again. I hope what I'm doing, although sometimes silly, boosts you up. Questions for you for the month. So, questions for the month. Yay! For April. Before I go on with the questions for the month, though, I have a housekeeping note about getting responses for these questions. I'm changing a little bit in how I get messages, and instead of social media, I think it's better for us to engage and talk with each other through the Burpcast email, because it's 4 weeks of time between Burpcast and loads of things change during these huge gaps. And by the time the next episode comes out, it will be out of date, so I'd rather that we keep talking right now through email or social media or whatever you like. And with your permission, I'll consider picking out questions and suggestions to answer on the actual show. So, what does this mean, Leonie? What are you talking about? Okay, let me put this in brief. Send over short responses at social media if you want to, or for long responses, actual questions and suggestions for consideration for the show, email me over at the new email, HermitBurpcast@gmail.com. So that's all lowercase, HermitBurpcast@gmail.com. It's not Derpcast anymore, though I still get email for that if you want to, but now I'm settled with HermitBurpcast@gmail.com. It's also at the show notes if you are confused what I'm talking about. Okay, let's move on to the questions. And I also listed the questions in the show notes as well if you're interested in answering. Yeah. questions for you listed in the show notes too. Yeah, it rhymes. So, question 1. Do you have any virtual reality experiences of your own? How was it? What potential do you see of it? I don't have to know how personally, but I'm just really curious. Next thing, keep sending in thoughts, suggestions, and questions related to this episode's story time that keeps going. And I'll answer all those questions and responses and thoughts in June's episode. So keep them coming, please. The third thing I would like to talk about is listen to the Xenoblade music playlist I linked. Listen to it. And you're welcome. The next thing I would like to ask, who are you voting for in Smash Bros. 4 for the Wii U and 3DS? But I don't really care about the 3DS that much. I haven't played it. I only played the Wii U version. And why? Why are you voting for this character? You know why I'm going to vote. It's Wonder Red. The next question, any other thoughts on the games I talked about? I did talk about a handful of games. And question 2, how accurate was the Myers-Briggs test for you? What are your thoughts on the introversion, extroversion topic I talked about? And have a go at the Myers-Briggs test if you haven't already. Have a go at it. Is it accurate for you? Opinions? Debate? I don't know. What did you get? And question 3. What are your sleeping pattern experiences? What are your thoughts on early birds versus night owls? And how did your sleeping pattern end up like that? Is it all crazy like mine, how it used to be all over the place and groggy and crazy and you don't remember what's life anymore and, what is this? Am I awake or am I asleep? Are you in that state that badly or... Yeah, how are you going? Or do you have a healthy sleeping pattern? You're bright and early and ready for the day. I don't know. You tell me. Fourth question. Question 4. How are you managing healthy habits at the computer? Send your experiences, suggestions, and questions my way. And helpful suggestions on soreness of the back and shoulders help too, because I am really sore at those areas. My back and shoulders. Yeah, that would be really appreciated. And questions or suggestions for future big topics for the Burpcast are also welcome. Questions for topics I'm considering for future Burpcast episodes are also welcome as well. Deeply appreciated. And lastly, any constructive feedback on how blah blah blah. This is a new language. It's called gibberish. Constructive feedback on the Burpcast so far. That would also be appreciated. So, wow, that's a whole bunch of questions. But don't worry, I have it all listed in the show notes, so you can read it as well in your own time and answer some if you like to. As I said, send them my way through social media if you have short responses, or if you want them to be considered and you got actual questions and suggestions and all that, send it through email. And we'll talk about these things in the next episode in the show. And that's all I have this month. See you in 2 weeks in the next blog post at blog.leonieu.com. Thanks for listening. Thanks so much. Thank you. I'm still really amazed that people listen to me at all. So, wow. Thanks so much for listening and make today an awesome one.